Okay.
Tomorrow.
I would not catch that.
He was.
No, it was.
Was it?
You don't think who knows about it?
In front of him.
There it is.
Is, so. All right. I'll call the Wood Village City Council meeting, October 8th, 2024. To order. We'll begin that with our land acknowledgement statement, and I'll go ahead and read that myself tonight, if that's all right with the council, unless somebody is
Yep.
really anxious to read it. The Chinookan people, known as the Clackamas and Cascades, are the indigenous people of the land now inhabited by the city of Wood Village and other areas of the Columbia River. The village of Nechakli, now referred to as Nechakli, was located near today's Blue Lake Park. Ancestral life of these people included a seasonal round of resource gathering and stewardships with the Wapato fields and fishing areas of the Columbia River, to the cedar and huckleberry gathering areas in the high Cascades. Introduced disease from early settlers dramatically reduced the number of these people. They signed the Willamette Valley Treaty in 1855 with the United States government and were forcibly removed to the Grand Ronde Indian Reservation. We thank the descendants of these tribes for being the original stewards and protectors of these lands since time immemorial. We also acknowledge the systematic policies of genocide, relocation, and the assimilation and still impacts many indigenous and Native American families today. We are honored by the collective work of many Native nations, leaders, and families who are demonstrating resilience, resistance, revitalization, healing, and creativity. We are honored to be guests upon these lands. Would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Any citizen comments, Greg?
None from me that have been relayed in.
Okay, thank you. Our public safety report, Chief. Good evening. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Thank you. Oh, just fine, thank you.
All right. Mayor, councilors, thank you. Good to see everybody. I don't have an awful lot to report on this month. I think the one major thing that we did address over the last month is the city has been receiving a lot of complaints about a chronic nuisance in the 23,000 block of Northeast Gleason. And we were able to address that issue and it should not be a problem anymore. So thanks for Greg and everybody else in the city, their assistance with that. You may have noticed on the.
Chief, if I can just pause.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Is there any other information you could share with the council here that it's public information? I don't know if everybody knows about that.
Yeah, sure. It was an unpermitted marijuana grow house that
Okay.
was generating a lot of complaints in the area, mostly odor related. So, but it is no longer a problem.
All right.
And from a building side as well, we reached out to our building official, to PGE's, they call it unmetered program, but that wasn't exactly what was going on. Through all the illegal electrical work, we actually had their meter pulled, which should also prevent reoccurrence in a short time frame. So it comprehensively addressed.
Just one more question about that. Is this an anomaly, or you're starting to see these in the area?
No, this was complaint driven. All the citizens from that block, 1,000 block had complained to the city and
Okay.
the sheriff's office. And it took us a little time to kind of wrap our heads around how we're going to address it. But no, at this point, it's not becoming a chronic issue in the neighborhood, if that's what you're asking.
Well, I'm not talking about just Wood Village, but are you seeing this throughout the Multnomah County area, this kind of
I think throughout the
operation?
region. Yeah, I think this is a commonality that's been since marijuana became legalized. And it's just, it's people use houses sometimes for grows.
Okay, yeah.
And use it to harvest there. So
Okay.
So thank you again for all the help on that. That was definitely a joint effort. You may notice on the public safety report, the assaults, compared to the two. I just wanted to address that. I looked through them. There were a couple of duplicates in this report and, one of the major ones was from the Fred Meyer strike. Some people had come by and thrown some fruit towards there and it was coded as an assault. But there weren't actual 8 reports of assaults. There were some duplicates in the coding and call-ins on some of these reports. So the more accurate number would maybe be 3 to 4. But nothing major to report on those. We had no stolen vehicles reported over the last month. We're still seeing some traffic crashes, primarily on 238 Halsey area that we're trying to get our handle on. So working with Greg and the rest of the city to try and address that as best we can. It's a tough intersection. You know, it gets a lot of traffic and so we're going to try and get creative with it. But looking through this last month, we had about 6 crashes that were based around that area, 238 Halsey. So we are working on it. And then the only other thing I have of note is there was another attempted theft at Best Western overnight in the middle of the month. The suspects weren't able to get away with anything, and we're looking in to see if it was connected to the previous one. So the investigation continues on that, but there was no injuries and nothing was taken during that incident. So other than that, I really don't have much else to report unless you have some questions for me.
Council, any questions?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if it's been addressed or not or taken care of, but we still get a lot of noise from the trucks using their jake brakes downhill late at night, early in the morning. So-
Yes, yeah, thank you, Counselor. We have talked about that. I understand it's around like 5, 6 in the morning is when it's prevalent.
And at night,
Okay.
like 10, 11, something like that. So it's pretty much a span of about 8 hours overnight.
Okay, all right.
We were trying to target a couple-hour window. The sheriff's office has a deputy who's motor carrier certified. Is that?
Yeah, we have a few, they're called truck inspectors and
Yeah, truck
they basically are certified through the state to do full truck inspections. And oftentimes we'll find, other issues that need to be addressed when these vehicles are stopped, but
So we're
the
hoping to,
sign's up. So
hoping to find a window to have a special mission with those people involved to then hear the jake brake and then do a full courtesy inspection.
Do they have any kind of equipment that could monitor the sound and take a picture at the same time or not?
we don't have anything like that.
Don't have it.
And,
Okay. All right. Well, good. We're working on it.
Yeah, we'll work on it though.
Wakes me up.
Oh,
Other questions or comments? Well, Chief, I guess
Thanks, Mayor.
your work is done here.
Thank you.
as always, it's good to see you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Always be safe out there. Consent agenda over the council minutes, September 10th and September 24th. Any corrections or changes?
Nope.
Your motion?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to accept the consent calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then don't forget the review of bills paid.
And the review of bills paid. Included in that motion.
Mhm.
Okay. We will,
I concur.
Great.
yes, all right. We will include that in that motion that passed.
That's if there are any questions with it. No questions.
No questions.
Mm.
Oh. Oh, I got plenty.
Mayor?
Yeah, I got plenty. Yeah. No, I don't have any questions.
All right.
Okay. Resolution 25, 2024. Greg?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council. No presentation on this one. It's a franchise renewal for Astound Broadband. They came to the city originally in 2015. Basically, my understanding of their system is more cell tower to cell tower with a small section of their network in Wood Village, necessitating a franchise agreement. So with their 2015 agreement, that included 2 renewals. The first was done in October of 2019 for 5 years, and now that 5 years is coming up. So they're asking for the second of 2 5-year renewals now in October of 2024. So it'd be good for 5 years if approved. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council on this?
No.
Their motion?
I move to approve resolution 25-2034. 24, sorry, my glasses. Granting Astound Broadband its second renew as outlined in its franchise agreement with the city.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you, council.
Ordinance 5-2024 retired discount. Greg?
So this one we do have a presentation for. And so it's for the consideration of the discontinuance of the retired household discount program. I'm going to walk through a little bit of the background of the program itself, our iterations of how it became here, financial impacts, what the proposal will be moving forward if adopted, the feedback we've received, because it is an ordinance, it does require a public hearing. So we'll go through that. Then obviously your discussion and your consideration of the ordinance. So the Retired Household Discount Program has been in place since 1973, originally called the senior rates. Our best assumptions of, how this came to be was our rates have typically been very base rate dependent, meaning a higher base rate, not so much in a consumable variable rate. And there was no utility relief or other program at that time. So most likely came about because you had seniors on a smaller fixed income, and with a higher base rate, there was no means or mechanism to have a lower bill through conservation or et cetera. Through time, it's been revised a few times, once in 93, then again in 2005, mostly dealing with the percentage of the discount, which is again on the base rate. A couple of things to point out, this isn't means tested. And so it's simply based on everyone in the household being on a retirement income through age or disability. So you could be a retired multimillionaire, you could be retired on a very small pension. It's the same benefit. It's a one-time application. So again, in theory, and we've seen this sometimes in practice, if a household applies, they qualify, well, they go back to work when their child comes and starts living with them, working, et cetera. And it's hard to track and keep up year to year. It's only for directly billed city customers. So essentially it's single family homes, a handful of duplexes that are individually metered, but those living, in a multifamily environment, manufactured home, wouldn't be able to qualify for this because they're not directly billed by the city. And just an interesting fact is about half the participants use more water than the average overall residential consumer. And so I think in the 70s, you can picture, smaller elderly couple probably using 1 or 2 units of water and needing a break with that. Clearly today we're getting users who are using a lot of water, and that's fine and all good. Don't know their financial means, and they're getting 25% off the base rate, which per year is $331 or just over $27 a month on a discount of that bill. What's also interesting is we held this hearing first thinking there would be people before we consider the overall rate change structure, which is next. But even if we didn't touch this program and you adopt the rate change structure, because we're reducing the base rate or potentially reducing the base rate if adopted, the benefit would reduce to $180 a year because this only impacts the base rate. So with our higher base rates now compared to what you'll consider next, even if you didn't touch this program, the benefit would be reduced anyway. Just a little thing to note there. This program has been talked about, I'll say more informally by the council over the decade plus, whether, maybe at a council meeting informally or at a retreat. But it really came to note when Donovan Enterprises did the full utility rate analysis and recommendations, and it was recommended to be removed because of the things you pointed out. It's not means tested. It is paid directly by the utilities or subsidized by utilities, not the general fund, and the other equity considerations. So it was really something that was flagged for. This needs to be in front of council. So staff has taken that approach. So what does this cost? It costs utilities $17,237 a year. And while I say utilities, because that's money, you can look at it 2 ways. It's not money coming into the utilities that otherwise would, or it's all the other ratepayers subsidizing those 52 participants to make the utilities whole. So you can look at it one side of the other coin. It's either the utilities aren't getting an additional 17,000 or everyone else is paying that 17,000. That's 4,600 from water, 10,500 from sewer, and then just over 2,000 for the street storm fee. Now, the city's utility relief program, which has been around for quite a while, but really more robust and structured since COVID, is a general fund funded program. So it makes utilities whole. So if adopted and moved forward, the proposal would be the retired discount program goes away December 31st, 2024. So in practice, the October bill's already gone out, so that's fine. November and December would go out just as they had. They'd see that discount, but come January, there would be no discount. That also coincide if you move forward with the rate adjustments or methodology change, that also takes effect January 1st. Now, those that are in true financial need can apply for the existing utility relief program, which you get to apply once every 6 months, and that's a 6-month on a rolling period. So if they applied in January, they can apply again in July. Now, if they applied in March, you just roll it 6 months forward. So there's no set application period. It's you apply and then it's 6 months from that date. And it is means tested, and I'll get into how that's structured here in the next slide. But the proposal also is to help alleviate and transition for the very first year, so in 2025, those that had been on the retired income discount program can apply once for the utility relief program without any income verification, and then the standard program applies. So for example, you adopt this come January 1st, the person says, I want my utility relief. Great. They just fill out the application, they get it. They could then apply again in February under the standard program. And if they qualify, they would get it. Then they couldn't apply again until August, if that makes sense. So they get kind of a one freebie and then the standard program applies. Now, for the utility assistance program benefits, if someone were to use it twice, using about 4 CCF of water, which is about the average, that pays for about $185. That's the approximate value of that benefit. So the city's utility assistance program is means tested. Now, we don't set income limits per se. It's not like, oh, it's 60 or 80% of area median income, et cetera. We actually try to just mirror eligibility for other relief or lower income programs. For example, the Children's Health Insurance Program, SNAP, low income heat and energy assistance, Oregon Health Plan, those types of programs. If you already have applied and received those benefits, you just show us that, yep, here's my SNAP card or OHP, and you've already been means tested. We don't need to see more income verification, et cetera. Now, and in some cases that people aren't part of a program, we just, okay, what is your income? And we generally look at the income guidelines for those programs, which I think are generally between 60 and 80% area median income. So for example, for a household of 2 people, generally wouldn't exceed $48,000-ish a year in income. For a household of 4, it's about upper 70s, 77%. That's the upper kind of level that we look at. And so let's just say, for example, a couple comes in and they made $51,000 last year, or that's what their income would be. It's like, well, that's close enough. We don't really have a benefits cliff per se. We take it case by case and try to understand the circumstance. And that is all funded through donations, both staff and community donations. The council puts in $5,000 every year in the budget. Interesting note, we haven't actually had to use that $5,000. And then the city's just credit card has rewards that we turn into cash that goes back into this program. So those are how it's primarily funded. So for feedback on this, it's been in a couple newsletters and council meetings for sure, but it was very explicitly stated in our September newsletter article. We did a direct mailer to all current retired rate discount people prior to the open house, encouraging to come in, which was on September 17th. We've had 6 comments. 2 of them were online, and I believe those are attached in your packet. That basically, I just didn't want to see any change. There wasn't really anything explicit or really even noting why the retired discount go away, but they were fine with the things the way they were. 2 phone comments that again kind of mirrored or echoed that. Now, there were other phone comments, but more on the rate structure. And basically, a lot of those were, once it was talked through, that's going to move to a pay as you use. They were satisfied with that. And then two comments at the open house. One was, I'll call it neutral at the open house. We then ran their bill. They're going to be saving money under the proposed rate adjustment. Even with losing the retired discount, they'd still be saving money compared to what they're paying today. And then another household just requested, instead of removing the discount altogether, would you just maybe reduce it? Which reducing it would even reduce it further than it will be if you adopt a rate change, and it still doesn't address the, it's funded by utilities. Essentially, it's not means tested. All the considerations we talked about, it doesn't address that. So still need to open a public hearing. I don't think I need to go through this, so I'll just pause here and let you open the public hearing.
Well, we questions from council first and then open the public hearing. So council, any questions about this? I know I was at the utilities open house, and I think Ira was too. No, somebody there.
It was Counselor Clark.
Oh, yeah, somebody looked like you.
Yeah, definitely.
We're twins.
Yeah. I get you mixed up all the time. Anyway, that conversation that Greg just referenced there, in the end, the person that she's going to save money. So really, as we've been thinking about this, that program goes away, but the access to support for people in need for their utilities remains. Correct. It looks different.
Yeah.
And in some cases, your bill is going to go down anyway. If there's no further questions on that, the clarification?
Nope.
Okay.
I guess just it'd be interesting to see. Are you guys thinking to reach out to these individuals that are currently receiving the discount rate, and maybe collectively going through, how they're going to save money with the new, if
So some will and some won't. Like I said, over half are more than average users. Like they're big consumers, and under the presentation next, heavy consumers are going to be paying more because they're paying for what they consume. It also, though, it allows more management of what your bill is by being able to adjust your usage. And so for the longest time, especially smaller households, maybe it's a widower, just an elderly couple, there was no way to reduce that bill. So a program like this was, it made sense. But now with the more robust utility assistance program and the ability to better control your water bill, some people will actually either will save money or have the better ability to control their water bill. But those in financial need still have access to resource.
and I'm assuming staff will inform them of the program available.
Correct. If adopted, we'll do another reach out.
So yeah, for the November newsletter, if everything passes tonight, we were going to do another article on the rate structure changes, and then we could do a direct notice to those on the current program, just letting them know that it would be going away, and how to apply, the one-time non-means tested, but then also let them know about the other program.
Greg, how many did you tell me that were on this? What is it?
52.
Oh, 52.
52.
Okay. Other questions? If not, I'll open up the public hearing, and maybe there'll be a phone call in or.
No scheduled phone consultation or
the
like.
Well, then I'm going to close this public hearing and looking for a motion.
Just before we get to the motion, I just want to point out, again, this is the recap, but on our utility assistance program, it is only for those directly billed customers. And at your next meeting, we're going to talk about the council retreat. It might be worth a retreat discussion about the city's utility relief program, how it's structured, and who else it might be able to help that's not directly billed. I just wanted to plug that now. Not really related to this per se, but just get thinking about that.
Okay.
And there is a suggested motion.
There it is.
I move to adopt ordinance 5-2024, adopting revisions to the city's municipal code, eliminating the retired citizen discount program in its entirety and repealing
Repealing.
municipal code section 13.20.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
I just say, that I believe that, we've done that pretty thoughtfully. When you're taking away something. I'm proud of, what we've done to continue to provide support. It looks a little different, but continue to provide that support. Ordinance 6.2024 flood safety fee, Seth.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Because of all the utility related stuff that's on your agenda tonight, we kind of combine these next two into one staff report. And I'm going to go through the presentation for both the ordinance and the resolution setting the rates. And then we'll hold the public hearing, do the ordinance, and then if that passes, do the resolution setting the rates. So it's kind of a preview of kind of what's going to happen. And I'm first going to talk about the change in the rate structure, updating the rates for our annual inflation, and then the flood safety benefit fee add-on. Yes. So a little bit of background. The last time we changed the utility rate structure was over 25 years ago. And like the retired discount, it's something that really hasn't been revisited, even though the community and the needs have changed quite a bit over the last few decades. The goal for doing the rate structure model is for it to be revenue neutral. It's not really changing how much money the city is collecting. It's adding some more flexibility to who pays and really putting more of the cost of the maintaining the water and sewer system back on the people who use it the most. So we already have those rate structures built in for commercial, but for single family, there was 4 units of water included in the flat fee, and residential was residential sewer was just a base fee. There was no volume charges. So, and then we also looked at who paid between single and multifamily to try and standardize some of that and make it have a little more sense. And again, a lot of the feedback we have gotten from our utility assistance program over the years has been people who've not just wanted assistance, but wanted to know how they can lower their monthly water bill. And if they could just use less water and then have a lower bill, the answer is no. It has always been no, because if 4 units was included in the base and you just pay a flat fee for sewer. So it didn't give people who wanted to be cost conscious and also conserve water to have the option of benefiting financially from that. All of the major changes will be effective January 1st, 2025, provided the council adopts the ordinance and resolution. And we'll talk about the flood safety benefit fee after that. So current structure, I mentioned water includes 4 units, which is about 3,300 gallons is included in your base bill. And again, no discount for using less on the sewer bill. So here's kind of an example, for a single family residential home, there's a little bit of cost variation on the water bill, but sewer bill's flat. And so this is a very flat rate structure, even though someone who uses 12 CCF is using 4 times the amount of water. They're only paying about 15% more on their combined water and sewer bill. So the proposed rate structure, and this was one of the slides that we covered at the open house, you'll see that the variation in who's paying varies widely. This, under the old rate structure, this was about $97 to $114. Now it can vary up to $70 to $140. So still not 4 times, but there's there's a lot more ability to control costs by modifying behavior. The other big change that affects sewer is we pay for sewer because we send it to Gresham via Fairview, and we pay per unit. And so people using and sending less water down the sewer is a big deal. And for our residential customers, a lot of commercial buildings and multifamily have installed 2 meters in irrigation for watering in the summer and one for their units. And that makes sense because for their irrigation meter, they don't get charged anything in sewer because it's not going into the sewer, it's going to the ground. Most single family homes, even though they water during the summer, they don't have 2 meters. So they're paying the sewer on the entire amount of water that they're using rather than being able to get credit for the water that's not actually going down. They're not actually flushing. So that's kind of the idea. And the way we get to that is we are implementing winter averaging, which means that during the summer, you either pay what you actually used or what you used the prior 6 months over the winter from October through March, whatever's lower. So really it's to try and get at who's actually sending sewage down the system as for people who need to be paying for that. And as you can see, that makes a huge difference down here between someone who is sending all the sewage down the sewer versus someone who is only really using about 4 for their house. The rest is pool, watering, spraying their neighbors as they drive along, whatever the case may be.
So let's go over that again. I'm just thinking about our usage at our home. Summer, we go up with water use. Normally, we're right about 3, 2 or 3 cubic feet per month. So in the summer, when we'll be watering the lawn, that will, the water bill will go up and the sewer bill will stay the same. Correctly? Is that?
Yeah, so come April of 2025, we'll look back at your usage from the average usage from October through March. And if that's lower than what you're using, April's not usually a big watering month, but May, July, August.
Mhm.
If you're only using 3 or 4 units during the winter, we are just assuming that that's what you're using year round and that any additional water use in the summer comes from
Got it.
Water.
growing tomatoes or
Sure.
filling up a pool or turning on a sprinkler so your
Okay.
kids will get out of the house, whatever that is. Spraying your kids instead of letting them run.
Okay,
And that's been mentioned in the newsletter.
yeah,
We talked
and we
about that.
talked about it at the, again, the utility open house.
Utility open house, yeah. And we had big placards and boards that kind of not just broke down single family, but also did multifamily and how this kind of affects them. So
Okay,
this is just kind of a summary. We will emphasize the commercial, the direction from council after we looked at the mix of our who pays for what. No change on the commercial side. That seems to be working and we're actually getting benefit from a few very large users of water that typically don't flush that down sewer, but it helps keeps the rates low for all water users when they have a really big volume charge. Because as you guys know, our cost for pumping more water is pretty minimal. It's all the wells and buildings and staff that we don't really have the opportunity to scale up or down quickly.
questions?
So that's the proposed rate increase. That's what was covered. We're also at the same time, we raised rates in January. We're also taking a look at cost of living. So what we have been doing has been increasing the rates by CPIU, which is the same inflation index that we use for our union contracts. For this year, that was 3.1%. So rates would go up by that amount for water and streets. And then as part of the preparation for replacing the trunk line that feeds sewer to Fairview was discussed in both the master plan and in the Donovan's rate study presentation. Last year, we increased sewer by inflation plus 4%. We would do that again this year and anticipate that continuing for 2 more additional years. So that when we finish the flow monitoring, which is just wrapping up, and get a better engineer's estimate on what that project's going to look like in terms of dollars, we will have already built in the ability to borrow money and pay back the debt service over a 4-year period rather than doing 1-year ramp up. So
I had questions. Do you want me to
Yes.
ask now or?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say there was no changes for 25 years? Was
in the
that
rate structure.
In the rate
Not in what we're charging, but we
Oh.
never changed.
the rate structure?
Yeah,
Okay.
how many units were included in the base, flat residential fee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll state the obvious. Maybe we should look at that more often. Than 25 years.
You know, it wouldn't be a bad.
I'll be dead before.
Well,
Cut it down to 20.
Patricia, it won't matter for us, but we want to leave something as for, our legend, needs to be. Anyway, I'm not really trying to be sarcastic, but obviously we should probably do that more often.
Yeah,
And when we are saving money in sewer, because Gresham charges us for how much we put down there, it'll be interesting to see if people's usage with sewer actually reduces our bill we might be paying to Gresham. I don't know whether that's a shot at that or not.
Not in the short term. We do a
Right.
5-year rolling average, which helps reduce peaks and valleys of higher, low use years. But over time, I'll call it possible. That is, people are looking at their behaviors, looking at their actions, that we might be able to see reduced flows. That's part of the conversation. This does build in a little more variability with our annual revenues versus a higher base. You can always kind of structure what minimums we'll get. And that just means we'll just need to structure our reserves a little differently. But we wouldn't see any change from Gresham like next year, 5-year.
But then that's what I would expect. It would take some time, but it also begins to make people think about conservation.
Yeah.
And the toilets that are being sold now have all sorts of ways that reduces the amount of water
yeah,
that is used.
yeah. And, we built the rates assuming that usage would continue the way it has been the last 2 years. Whether or not that continues is really hard to say. A lot of the literature I looked at was that you should expect some amount of conservation when you kind of incentivize people to use less, they will start to. But the reality is that a lot of conservation is a very long-term issue. So in 1980 versus 2020, Portland used the same amount of water that it did. It had the flat water usage for almost 40 years. And that's because it takes a while for those remodels to get those low flush toilets, to get the reduced, I want to say
Shower heads.
faucets. That all takes a little while. And so getting growth of 1% to 2% a year, but also seeing conservation of 1% to 2% a year. And that's been kind of across the board nationally which is it's not big in any one year, but over a multi-decade look, it becomes significant savings. So the actual water per person has gone down almost by a third when you compare it to 40 years ago. So whether or not that continues or not kind of depends on if people keep inventing ways to use less water.
Well, it's the right thing to do. I mean, there's no question. We do go through water shortages here at times.
Yeah.
So any questions from anybody else?
Okay.
Okay.
So that's the inflation part of our fees. Now we're going to get to the new line item on the bill, the flood safety fee. As you guys know, this process started in 2019 with Levy Ready Columbia, consolidation of the 4 existing districts that were within the managed floodplain. After some robust discussion and a lot of legal analysis, staff took some proposed changes to make sure that they could legally collect money. And we advocated that rather than being prescriptive and telling us how to do it, they would leave it up to us, leave some latitude for the city to determine how to collect it. So there was a Senate bill that passed in the session last spring that gave them the authority to charge the cities within Multnomah County and on the unincorporated county a flood safety benefit fee that was based on population. So they received that. That Senate bill passed. I believe it was sponsored by Senator Gorsuch was the one who brought it forward. So they've started billing as of July 1st. They sent out the first bills. Our portion is about $36,000. Their operating budget's about 16 million. So we're a very small percentage of that. And that future rate increase on that portion is capped at 3% or CPI, and that was written into the legislation. So nobody's happy about paying anything more than what they're currently paying, but we feel like that's it could have been worse, as we say. So we have some ability to choose how we do this. Could pay it out of the general fund, could build it in just as a flat fee, kind of like what Gresham does with their public safety fee. What we're proposing is to add it and mimic the same methodology we use for the street utility fee, since the street is technically a street and stormwater fund. And we do pay for all of our stormwater improvements out of the street fund. It made sense that that's where this fee would live and would be related to a similar methodology. We could have gone through and done a lot of work to look at impervious surface or where properties are located and how much rain they contribute to the floodplain. We don't have that information currently, and that would take a lot of work to get, and it probably wouldn't be meaningfully different since the single family home is going to be impacted about $1.50 a month by this. That wouldn't really vary a lot. There's just not, we have a pretty consistent and very knowable mix of commercial, residential, and multifamily. So it's really, we approached it as what's the simplest way? How can we make sure that it's separated on the bill and keep it a strong nexus with our existing street and stormwater funds? So that's what's been proposed. But we have a lot of latitude on this. So if there's a better way of doing it, or if council has some reservations or questions, I'm more than happy to answer those, or you guys have the conversation.
Council questions? We have seen this and talked about it several times, but it doesn't mean that we don't have questions now. So I'm not trying to limit that. And before we, again, I've done this before, but Seth, you've played a major role in this. And again, thank you for your leadership on that committee. Question I have is the one that we worked hard at making sure that this is not a tax that Wood Village is assessing. How will that look on their monthly statements? I can't tell you. I can tell you right now, I don't know what it looks like for the street fund.
It'll be another line item on their bill.
Something
Will it
about
show
stormwater extortion or?
So currently on the bill, it'll show you water, sewer, and street storm. This one will be called flood safety fee. And then as Seth had mentioned, we're kind of gonna do it under the same methodology. So I think it worked out to about 10.5% of their street storm fee is what people would be paying.
Yeah.
So the residential is very small, the commercial, depending on the type of commercial, could be quite a bit. But the street storm fee was kind of structured for commercial to provide about half the revenue and residential to provide the other half. And so that's going to be consistent with this.
So it won't say, Multnomah County or state. It's going to be under our name, our heading. So
and it has been noted in the newsletter. Actually, we've had a couple of articles and we'll be having another article on that. that we've gone into, all the background on, this is the pass
Got it.
through.
But it will be a separate fee with a
Separate
lane.
line item. on
Well,
their-
just a good point for us to remember as counselors, if somebody says, that's going to pay for a bill that we get from the state.
Could there be anything on the bill that said, actually points to Senate bill?
The amount of room that you have on the bill for the line item description is pretty small.
How about tax due to Senate Bill 1517? That's pretty small.
Or could like a flyer, an additional like literature be sent out with the initial couple first bills?
So the way most of our
An insert.
bills,
Mm.
yeah, so most of our bills are printed on 8.5 by 14. They're a trifold seal paper. There is no mechanism to insert in those. We have about 2 lines worth where we can put additional information. Whether or not people read that is another question. Certainly, anybody who's concerned about their bill will usually call in and ask questions, and all of our front end staff is fully aware and, can refer them to that. I can
then-
see what I can come up with for, the description
Yeah.
has to be pretty short.
And
does.
still our website, social media, newsletter,
Yes.
that will all talk about this in detail. It can, probably most likely show an example bill, call out whatever we title it and explain it deeper and where they can go to get more information.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah. But Becky, did you say there was like 2 lines that you have available or?
So I
Well, here.
don't know if you've seen the we've got more people on the email billing, which is a little bit nicer, but it's like at the very bottom of that middle section statement and
Mm.
Well, just take this conversation then under
we will
advice.
definitely,
yeah.
but whether or not people see it is.
Sure. Well, just take
For
it
our
under
newsletter
advisement,
website.
See what you.
Yes.
We'll gather more attention than the small little special notice at the bottom.
Yeah.
And I will also note that there was a provision in here that the cities could collect an administrative fee for collecting the revenue and then passing it on. We have not chosen to collect that. What we did do was design it to be within 1 to 2% of what we think the bill is going to be. And if we're over or under in any given year, we're not going to do a credit back or not. I think we were anticipating our bill is going to be about 36,600 once the rate increase goes into effect January 1st. We built it to be about 37,000. So there's about $400 difference. If we collect that, we're just going to keep it in the street stormwater fund and not charge an admin. If it comes up short, then the street makes up the difference. But that gets reevaluated every year based on their billing. So we'll be able to make those adjustments to try and keep that as low as we can.
We're also starting at a deficit though, because the current billing is from July through June, and this fee is not going to take effect till January. So we'll only actually be collecting 6
Half,
months.
yeah. So for the first year, it's half.
And we decided to do that internally because of all the other utility rate structure changes that were going on and the outreach that was happening. We didn't want to have that one start in July 1st and try and separate those. It made more sense to keep that all
That
as
makes
one.
sense.
Any other questions from the council before I open up the public hearing?
I would like to make one comment if I could, and that's just again, thanking Seth for his couple years of work on this. John Niyama was involved when talking more capital. Seth got involved when it really turned financial, and their budget, you can argue, gee, you're combining budget went from 10, 11 million to 16. How is that more efficient? Their initials were well over $30 million. And a lot of it was to assess kind of poking holes in some of their arguments and diving in the details that got it to a more reasonable number or acceptable number. And I just want to thank Seth for the ulcers and heart palpitations that his work caused him and others.
Good job.
I try not to swear in front of staff, so it's been
Good job.
minimum.
Well, there isn't any question that Seth was a leader on that group and was the one that was challenging some of the recommendations that were being presented. So
And I did, I will just follow up on that. Mayor Montross from Maywood Park did
Okay.
reach out and I was able to sit down with her and her finance director and
Okay.
give them a little bit of history and who they should reach out to try and figure out their issue, their issues.
Thanks, Steph. I forgot to tell you that the mayor's meeting I suggested, because she asked a question and I went through it with her, but I said, call you and you could help her. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to open this public hearing. I'm going to close this public hearing. All right, so looking for a motion.
I move to approve ordinance 6-2024, an ordinance creating a flood safety benefit fee.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes.
So the next resolution, so we've made these changes to the retired senior program, changes to our flat and volume charges for water and sewer. We added the flood benefit, safety benefit fee. That's all been by ordinance and updating what we need to make sure that we're legal in order to be able to start collecting this money or stop giving money away. This is the resolution that refers to the exhibit that has all of the fee schedules for water, sewer, and storm. That was in your packet. So we now need a resolution to actually set the rates with an effective date of January 1st, 2025.
There a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 26-2024, a resolution adopting a master fee schedule, including adding a flood safety benefit fee and adjusting water, sewer, and street utility fees.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. It passes. What do you think?
If there's nothing else needed from me, I'll return
Yeah.
from the dais to my seat.
Yes, you can leave the dais and return to your seat. Thank you. All right, just, you can see those next meetings and the Tuesday, dates. Greg, anything?
There is another no ivy date. We just learned this the other day for October 20th in the Hawthorne part of the park. If those are interested in removing ivy, our local community member wants to organize another one on the 20th. So otherwise,
And there's a parks meeting scheduled for October 28th.
otherwise, yes, everything's scheduled here. Good fun run last Saturday.
Oh, that-
Yeah, any reports from counselor or councils on announcements or anything?
We had our biggest registration to date on there. I think we had a total
many?
of 102
Wow.
people registered for
Oh,
the
nice.
run. So good turnout, beautiful day, and nobody got lost.
You run out of treats or anything?
No, we had enough. We had enough of everything.
Wow, that's.
Yeah, I had good feedback from my assistant
Yeah,
manager.
right.
She went to it with her
Cool.
family and really enjoyed it.
That is a
good.
huge number.
Yeah. I just gotta mention that I will not be here for our second October meeting. I will be at a ORPA conference,
Or a,
Oregon Recreation and Parks Association.
good. Anybody else got any comments or announcements? All right, just to double, the Parks meeting is what date?
The
28th.
28th, Monday,
At what time?
6 o'clock.
Okay. All right, now if there's no other announcements, we're adjourned.
7 o'clock.